So basically, this is exactly what a meeting with a photographer or a videographer or even possibly a wedding planner would be like. This is just to help you guys out as much as possible as a couple. It's great to see what happens, why, where, from a logistical standpoint, to see the efficiency of a day, the way it is planned out. And this is also for a potential photographer or videographer who's just getting started, possibly. Wedding meetings, the first ones usually take about an hour to an hour and a half. This is not going to take as long because it's one way. However, I'm going to try cover as much ground as possible, and I think you should really be taking notes. So most weddings are planned almost the same way in terms of the chapters and the sequence, and it is like that because it makes most sense. So you need to trust us when we tell you what comes first, what comes second, and how much time you have to do this and how much time you have to do that. Disclaimer, I'm not a wedding planner. I am just a friend or a photographer. So I am only trying to help you as much as possible. The video is going to be split up into two parts. The first part is trying to get as much information as possible from the couple themselves, see what their expectations are, see if the church has been confirmed, the wedding reception has been confirmed, the number of guests, and most importantly, the time. The time is one of the most important things that there are certain things they do not consider. That's coming up shortly. And the second part of this video has the full day planned out as it should, as 99.9% of the weddings should be planned out. And this includes going to the groom, the bride, going to the church, taking photos with the bride and groom alone somewhere intimate, potentially going to the wedding reception, taking the family photos, having a little bit of a break, going around with people, the duration that you could go around with people for, that's followed by the first dance, 90 minutes of dancing, then you've got the speeches, you've got the cake, and then the after party, and the going away, potentially. There's quite a lot of information there that I would really like to share with you. I hope you enjoy this video. If you have any questions, just go ahead and ask me, and that's pretty much it. So enjoy. For starters, the time is extremely important because many couples plan what time church is, but they don't take sunset into consideration. They don't take daylight into consideration. And one of the things I would highly recommend is that you have at least 1 hour of sunlight when you get to the wedding reception. And that would be awesome. Many weddings, depending on the month, because of the heat, you might not want to start so early. You might want to start later. It's really nice to have natural light. It's really nice to have all this available light coming in. The photos look a lot more natural, and it's also the ambience and the vibe when you get to a wedding reception. And the things to know is that obviously June 20, 21, 22, that's the longest day of the year. So sunset is at like 8:45 p.m. You can have mass at 5. You can have mass at 6, 4 p.m. I mean, those are all good times, but if you had to have mass at 5 p.m. in November, you're almost walking into church in the dark, and you are most definitely going to walk out of church in the dark. And that is a bit sad. It's a bit depressing for me, and I think for many. It kind of reminds me of like on a Sunday when I used to walk out of the cinema and I was 10 years old and it would be too dark, and then you have school the next day and it's like, you know, so it's like, it's nice to have that sunlight. It's nice to walk out in the church with light. It's nice to have the family photos in light. It's nice to have the photos of the couple in light. Maybe not direct sunlight, we can get into that, but in light, well lit. And then it's nice to maybe enjoy the wedding venue. They could have views like Sheer Bastion. You could have like a garden like Villarigo. So it's really nice to have a bit of light, at least for the first hour. So I would always highly recommend that. Okay. Recently I had a bride, many times, like sometimes I ask brides to send me a couple of photos of like what it is they really want, just to see their style, to see whether they choose. I mean, if they send me 10 photos and 8 of them are in black and white, I know that the bride really likes black and white, and vice versa. So recently there was this bride who sent me these photos and they were all incredible. They were really beautiful, you know, Pinterest, iStock and all that stuff. And they were obviously all in very good sunlight. And I looked back at her and I told her, listen, you know, FYI, you gotta walk out in the dark. So you're not gonna have a single photo that looks like this, unfortunately. And it's something they didn't even consider. So now it's very important that you kind of send that message on as early as possible, where they're still in time to change the time. And many other things. Okay, so what comes next? You we ask about the church. This is very important for us. The distance is quite important for you, because like if the church is close to the wedding reception, then you're most likely going to have more people at the church, you know, because they're close to each other. But if they're really far apart on the island, some people will just skip church and they'll go to the wedding reception. But for us, it's really important because we need to know how well lit the place is. I mean, my favorite thing in a church is not the lighting per se, because it's something I can work with. We can shoot raw and we can adjust. Make sure your photographer is going to shoot raw. So it's not the lighting per se. What it is mostly for me is the space, because the space allows me to take as many natural photos as possible. I can hide between columns. I can hide between heads of people. I could take photos and they wouldn't even know you're there. But then if it was a small chapel, which could be a bit intimate, it's going to be a bit too intimate, because we're going to be right in front of you. And it's very hard for us to get a shot out without you noticing, you know, from your peripheral or, oops, sorry. You know, so the church, so always, I'm not going to choose a church for you, but if you do have a choice of two, I would most definitely give you my favorite, and it might probably make more sense. So there's a church, which is really important. It's something that you really discuss. I'm trying to go really quick here. There's the wedding reception. So again, seasonal, there's indoor and outdoor. There are problems like curfews, you know, like a lot of hotels. You're probably not going to have music on after 11 p.m. It's really tough. And if a report comes in from any of the guests or any jealous boyfriend, girlfriend, or political people who don't fucking like you, you know, they could just call it in and the party has to stop. So you're either, if you're going to get married somewhere where 11 p.m. curfews are possibly going to be a problem, you always want to plan as that being like the last thing you need on your wedding day. So it was like you're going away, or maybe that's where the party kind of ends. So you can either start much earlier on the day, since you definitely want that as a venue, or else you can go to places where music pumping till 2 a.m. is actually not a problem, and reports don't come in. So they might not guarantee it, but you could see a track record of, you know, no reports coming in every year. So you kind of know it's a good place. Sorry for the sounds. And sorry for the background. This is actually a podcast room, but I'm kind of, I threw rubbish in the background to kind of hide it and make it look different. Okay, cool. So now obviously I'm going to speak about the day and the sequence and the program. Usually, photographers and videographers start at the groom's house, or one of the couples anyway, because it could be bride, groom, bride, whatever. But we usually start at the groom's house, okay? Assuming it's a boy-girl thing. And now I have 2 brides coming up soon, but they're actually getting married in the same house. One's upstairs, one's downstairs. Okay, but forget that exception. I'm just telling you the majority of the weddings, okay? So we start at the groom's house, and because it takes them so much less time to get ready, it's pretty much chuchum, and they also have to be at the church before. So that is why we start at the groom's house. Now you might be asking, but is it necessary to come to the houses before church? Because maybe I just want you to come to church. I mean, why? I can't understand why you'd want that. I could understand from a budget perspective, because there's like 2 hours less, 2.5 hours less actually on the day. So maybe photographers charge per hour, or there are different packages. So maybe if you're on a tight budget, yes. But everything else, definitely not. Why? Because it's so beneficial. So for starters, we're going to have really nice photos. Some of my favorite photos are the ones at the houses. Second reason is that the ice is broken with family. So the family get to see you, they get to recognize you now, you get to recognize, now you know who dad is. You know, you could have like a stepfather and a father, you could have like a, you know, a missing parent or something. I mean, going to the houses allows the photographer to take it all in and understand what's going on. And the third reason, let's throw 3 reasons. A third reason is the photographer would get to meet the best men, or the ushers and the maid of honor. So like your point of contact now as a photographer, now you know who your point of contact is. You don't have to go and bother the groom and say, oh, listen, because I think we should. No. Now there's the best man, you know him, you met him at the house, like go. And also, if you want another reason, the bride and groom, you get to break the ice with them. You know, they get used to you taking photos of them. You probably take 200 to 300 photos of the bride. and the bridesmaids at the house. So now when it's time to go to church, she's not even thinking about you anymore. She got used to you, you got used to her, you're fine. So it's a really, really good start. So approximately 2.5 hours before the church, I make my way. A photographer should make his way to the groom's house. There's a scenario where, like, best case scenario is that the groom is wearing his trousers, his shirts. The groom and the groomsmen are wearing their trousers, their shirts, and their shoes. So leave the cufflinks, leave the tie, leave the waistcoat, leave the jacket, leave the flowers in the fridge. You know, it would be great to have mom like pin them on the boys. And also depending what they're doing, but you prepare them. You tell them, listen, I only have 45 minutes because I have to go to the bride's house. You can't keep me, you can't hold me there because then I'm going to miss out. You have a domino effect of a disaster on the schedule. So you're in and you're out at a stated time, and you got to cover as much ground as possible. They need to be wearing their trousers, shirts, and shoes, and they would leave the rest up to you. You're not going to tell them how to pose. You're going to let them do their thing, but make sure they help each other. If there's something in the background which you don't like, you could shift them closer to the window, get more natural light. You do what you have to do. And also, whatever the time you decide to go to the bride and to the groom, so bride and groom, whatever time the photographer is coming to your house, make sure the videographer is coming at the same time. Because otherwise, you're either going to have to do something twice, like put on your dress twice, which would be ridiculous, or someone's going to miss out. It's either the photographer or the videographer is going to miss out. So the times they should agreed upon. All right. So that's the groom's house. You're done. You're ready. The groomsmen could then take off their jackets. It might be hot. Leave them on a chair. And about half an hour later, you're going to start making your way to church anyway. You have to be there half an hour before. You're good. All right. So that's what the photographer does. Super easy, super relaxed. Tell your parents to be there, ideally. And you'll include anyone who's in the house. Now, bridesmaids and the bride, obviously, bride's residence, very, very similar. The only difference is that so of course, the bride's dress would be hung somewhere really nicely. That's the plan. Take off the plastic, put on a window, staircase, wardrobe, whatever it is. And it would be great to find the bridesmaids wearing robes. That would be my favorite scenario. And the guys, they clean glasses, with beer, whiskey, whatever, at the end of my stay at their house, because they're fully dressed. It's really nice. But the girls usually do the Prosecco when it's still, really fun. They're wearing the robes and they're way less stressed, because what happens is that once the bride puts on her dress, things stiffen a bit. They get emotional. They try not to cry. It's really hard to have a really good moment with Prosecco at that time. You might drop on the dress. So no. There's a sequence. We'll do the Prosecco first, and then everyone will go into their bedroom and get ready, dressed up, whichever room is dedicated to that, allocated for that. And then while they're getting dressed, the photographer would take photos of your dress so he can get all the details and stuff. So he's not just staring at frames or watching TV. So he's doing that. So there's always something happening, or dogs or cats. An amazing photography opportunity. Ooh, so I have to stop and press record again. So just 1 second. So we got shots with the robes. We got shots taking Prosecco, clinking glasses, some nice good music in the background, possibly just final touch-ups of hair and makeup. Listen, the most important thing at the bride's house is that whatever time stated, let's assume photographer and videographer are going to come to the bride's house at 12 o'clock at noon. Definitely the most important rule is that hair and makeup are ready. Okay. That is the most important rule. You should have, so every hair and makeup artist, wedding hair and makeup artist should know that hair and makeup should be ready 2 hours before mass. That is like a standard thing, just like there are many other standards, throughout the wedding. And that means that when we arrive, we should find you ready. Hair and makeup only ready. Everything else, obviously not. And why is this? Because there's so much that still needs to be done. Your stress levels would be very low because you're getting ready at a very, very great pace. So, that's it. That's why. Fair enough. We can still get you like touching up on makeup, but makeup would be ready. You don't want to get touch-up shots when your makeup hasn't even started yet. So, this is something you need to emphasize, something you have to be very careful about, and it needs to happen. Now, we're not going to stress you out if you're not ready, but unfortunately, you're not going to have any photos or very, very little, okay? So there are some There are some really good makeup artists and hairstylists, and possibly some of us can recommend certain vendors, certain suppliers. However, just do some research, and it is something that you need to bring up. Okay, just make sure that the hair makeup is ready. Okay, so we did the Prosecco, we did the vows. I got some shots of the dress alone hung, super nice. Now it's time for the bride to get dressed up, and this would require her party, her friends, parents, mom or whoever to take her into the bedroom and dress her up. When and only when she is decently dressed, so you'll have those last 3 buttons in the back, that is when you kind of open the door and invite the photographer in to get a couple of really nice final touches. And that's usually like some nice wide angles, reflective mirror, emotions, and maybe some nice natural light coming in when an open dress. So it's really great to have everyone fully dressed at this point, and the bride nearly dressed completely. All right, and then there's the jewelry, there's putting on the shoes, there's the veil. There's quite a few things to consider. Yeah, you just put these on all in good time, and then make our way downstairs or make our way to a living room. Sorry about that. Make our way to a living room and dry the flowers. They're probably going to be wet in the fridge or in the jugs. Just dry the flowers and take some really nice shots. If we're good with time, we'll have the bride with every person in the house individually. So it would be really nice. Bride with mom, bride with dad, bride with both parents, bride with siblings, bride with maid of honor, bride with, flower girl and all that stuff. It's good if we have that time. These are all free photos. They're free opportunities. There's no time ticking right now. This is before Mass. So you've got all the time in the world. You're in a really relaxed state of mind. You could have a garden, or you could have a nice living room, or just a plain wall. It makes no difference. We'll make it work. However, hair makeup needs to be ready, and that's it. And then you're guaranteed that you're going to have quite a few nice shots of this. All right, photographer. Now, the one thing I don't like is waiting to get the bride leaving the house. I don't think it makes much sense for 2 reasons. For starters, 3 reasons actually. For starters, we need to be at the church half an hour before you, the bride. Secondly, outside the church is a lot nicer than outside the house, usually, because of all the cars, neighbors, traffic, and all that shit. And the third thing is that if you're leaving the house, you're only going to give me your back as you step into the car. But when you're coming out of the car with the church possibly in the background, you're facing camera. So we do not stay. It just doesn't make sense. Well, I'm speaking on my own behalf, not on anyone else's, but it just doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to get people arriving at the church, setting up the lights, parking safely, driving safely, and doing everything else. Okay, so if you really do want a shot of the facade because your parents had to paint the facade just because of this wedding, then we'll just fake it. Come out, take a photo, and go back in. All right. Photographers and videographers need to be at the church at least 30 minutes before. Okay, videographers have to set up the possibly mics, lapels on the priests. Some have their own sound guy there or girl. Sound specialist. So anyway, 30 minutes definitely needed. They need to be there before. Usually during Mass, not much is happening. Something you do need to consider is, if for some reason when you arrive outside the church, you don't see a photographer and the videographer, do not come out of the car. Maybe something happened inside and they're solving it and they're fixing it. They're usually waiting outside for you, but don't just come out. You're going to miss out on the shot of you and possibly your dad in the car, which is really a nice shot. You're going to miss out on your dad helping you out, and you're going to miss out on many other shots. So they're usually outside. They should be outside waiting for you, but there might be a case where they're not. Granted, usually wedding taxi drivers know this. They don't even approach the church if they don't see a photographer outside waiting. However, maybe you're borrowing a Morgan or an MG of your uncle, and your uncle's driving you and he doesn't know this stuff. So this is why we mentioned this. Outside the church, there shouldn't be anyone else except for those who are about to walk down the aisle. Walking down the aisle is very important. It's a really, really important moment. It can't be replicated. You just have one go at it. So the thing that I highly recommend, again, depending on the church, depending on the length of the aisle, and depending whether you're your girls, your party are walking in twos or individually, but the one thing that we really request and require and ask you to do is to leave a lot of space, as much space as possible between the girls as they leave. So it's the page boy, ring bearer, the kids, the flower girl, you're leaving at least maybe half the length of the aisle. Again, depending on the aisle, but I would say it would need to be a good 20 to 30 meters at least between you. Walk at the same speed, sit down as soon as you get to the altar, because otherwise you're going to have a bottleneck and you're blocking the way. It's already hard enough for us to take a good shot through that narrow space with the bright light coming from the main door, and then people are standing. Some people are standing and coming out into the aisle with a massive iPad to take a photo of you. Window is so small and it's so difficult that the more you take your time and the more we're sure that there's no one in front of you, the easier it is going to be for all of us, and the nicer your shots are going to be, whether they are photo or video. So these are little things, but throughout Mass, chill out, enjoy the moment, and that's it. Nothing else has to happen from our side. So we're going to get the readers, we're going to get everything. We're going to get guests sitting down, we're going to get some emotions ideally, we're going to get the vows, the exchange of the rings, and all of that. If there is something that you got to do which is just out of the ordinary, let us know. It's good to know. But then the only thing that I really recommend doing at the end, so once you've signed the documents, we have about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to spare. There's usually a bottleneck of your guests trying to make their way out of the church with the petals, confetti, on the tzuntir. However, just outside the church. However, we have about 3 or 4 minutes or 5. So I like to take a safe shot of the couple alone. They might be good friends, or there might be a good relationship with them and the priest. That's a great shot opportunity on the altar. It makes most sense. But also you might have a member of the family, elderly person who's a bit vulnerable, who might not make their way to the reception. That means this is our only shot at getting a really good shot with them, a photo with them. So, like if you have a grandmother who just came from Mass, she's not coming for the reception, this is our chance, okay? We're just going to bring her on the altar, take a nice shot of you too, as a married couple with her, him, whoever, and then we'll make our way outside. So you're going to step outside the church, chin up, put flowers on the right side in your right arm. We'll guide you. We'll guide you through all of this. Don't worry. But it's great to hear this once. So then if you hear it a second time, and then you'd understand what's going on, and your chances of sort of doing it right are much higher once you've heard it twice. Enjoy the moment, petals, confetti, and spend quite a bit of time outside there, I would say, weather permitting, of course. But something you need to understand is that the more time you spend outside the church, okay, saying hi to people, the more time you got to save at the wedding reception. Because let's assume you have 100 people outside the church. You got to say hi to 100 people in less than 10 minutes, literally, because, you're going to have 4 coming from one side, a group of 5 in front of you, 3 right there. You get to say hi to them, and you don't have to say hi twice now. But if you had to leave early because you're worried that you're not going to make it on time and you're wasting time, and you get to the venue, now you're going to have to say hi to these people almost individually. And it's really not recommended. So do make the most of that. Now what's going to happen? Some are going to stay around till you leave. Some are going to start making their way there because they're hungry and to park closer maybe. But all this means that traditionally the bride and the groom, when they leave the wedding reception, they drive around for 20 minutes, which gives all the guests enough time to collect the car from the church, drive to the reception, park at the reception, come out and settle down. And you need to give everyone who was at church enough time to arrive, which means you're driving around in circles usually for 20 minutes. So rather than driving around in circles for 20 minutes, we are going to plan this. It's generally quite easy. See where the church is, see where the reception is, and see if there is a really convenient place. See if there's a really convenient place, where we could stop and take some really great shots of you two as a married couple. I think it's amazing. It's amazing for many reasons. For starters, it's a breather. You get to ground yourself, so you get to spend time together, and you get to be in a little bubble of peace and quiet. That's probably the best part of it. And the second is we're going to get some really good shots of you guys. You know, I mean, some have the opportunity, some get the opportunity to smoke a cigarette, have a quick glass of water, bring a bridesmaid along. It might be windy, your veil is still on your head, depends where we go. You know, so there's a lot of little things, but all this is like 20 minutes. And the greatest thing about this is that your guests don't even know that you went anywhere for photos. As far as they know, you're just driving slowly to the reception. So this is amazing time. This is gold. And it gives us the chance to take photos in a completely different place. So you don't have all the photos in the church and then you have all the photos at the wedding reception. There's actually another location which just varies the images in terms of color, lighting, works so much. So it is something that I highly recommend. I think that we do. And now this is the moment. So we leave, photographers would probably leave 5 minutes before you would from wherever this shot was, because we need to get at the wedding reception before you, and we need to have you arriving. It's quite nice to have that. And then there's a formality where you make your way to the cake table, and you might have a non-alcoholic or alcoholic drink with your parents. And that's it. You're not cutting the cake. It's just like an opening. It's like a formal opening. So now like the bars are running, the food's running, everything is going. But the thing that requires the most coordination would be the family photos. These are the formal group photos, actually. They're not even really family photos, although the whole family is involved. But it would have the best man, the bridal party, parents, grandparents. But also, you might have foreign friends who you were friends with at university who came for the wedding. You might have an Uncle Joe who comes from Canada, you know. I mean, listen, could you imagine going to a wedding, wherever it is, in Spain, and not even having a photo with the bride and the groom? It's like the least you sort of want, in terms of expectations. So I think it is great to have them also. But this list is not my list. This is your list. So this is your homework. You're going to have a list of 12, 15 photos, and my job, the photographer's job, would be to find a really good place to take these shots. And your job is to give this list to like siblings on both your family sides, or the best man, or the wedding planner. And then it is their job to gather everyone in an allocated area with a great background, good lighting, and that's it. And just plan that if everyone is in one area and we get to take these shots early, so before people are drunk, while they're still, sober, still smart, while we still have their attention, because if we lose them in a crowd of 400 people, it's very hard to find them. So once we have everyone in that corner, once we're taking these shots, you need to consider like every photo will take approximately a minute. So now it's up to you to decide how many photos you want. But as long as everyone's there and as long as it works out seamlessly, you'll be done in like 15 minutes tops, which is really good, because this gives you so much time to enjoy your wedding. Now, the wedding itself should be broken down into chapters. So the rule is that you have 2.5 hours from when you arrive at the reception till the first dance. So you have 2.5 hours of doing whatever you want. Because what do you have? The sequence is this. It is, okay, family photos, but so saying hi to a couple of people and enjoying the wedding for those 2.5 hours. You've got your first dance followed by a 90-minute playlist. And we're going to get into everything in a second, followed by speeches, followed by the cake and like whatever coffee table if they have one, and then followed by the after party if you do have an after party. So this is the only time where like brides are like, but listen, it's not what I want to do, because I wanted to do the cake. All right, look, this sequence is nice because there's always something to look forward to. So you have, first you're saying hi to people, and then you're looking forward to, the food, and the station's open, and then you're looking forward to the first dance, and then there's a dance playlist, and then now you could look forward to the speeches, and then you're looking forward to the cake, and then like the next thing is the after party. So there's always something that you look forward to. It's really nice. The day is split up in really great chapters. The food and beverage manager's got to be really happy with the sequence. The band should be really happy with the sequence, and everyone should be happy. The guests should be happy. Why? Because they have a little bit of a break between the dancing and then the after party, because there's the cake and there's the speeches in between. So like this is spaced out. But if you say, I want to cut the cake quickly, so then we start dancing and we just keep dancing all night. That's it. You've lost it. Everything happened in 15 minutes, and now for the next 4 hours, you expect everyone to dance. It just doesn't feel like, it feels more like a dance party. And that's if they dance for 4 hours straight. I would highly recommend doing it in this sequence. I'm just going to have a sip of coffee. So going back, it's still warm. So going back to the sequence and the day. So we took the family photos, which is amazing because 15 minutes after we arrived at the venue, you're done. Like the most important wedding photos that were maybe on your chest, they were most definitely on mine. It's like the photos of you two alone who listening, they're ready, good daylight, possibly. The family photos, Leslie, we didn't forget anyone. We had the list. Amazing. So you see, we did that, and now you could relax. So you have 2.5 hours of doing whatever you want. You could do whatever you want. I would highly recommend that you split it. So spend 30 minutes talking to the older people and the ones you're least likely going to see on the dance floor eventually. And then you've got another hour and a half at least of just doing whatever you want. If you've got your football friends or your school friends and they are by the bar and you just want to stay by the bar, it is your wedding and you just stay by the bar. You don't have to do anything. This is the only moment that you two as a married couple have. This is the only time you really have to do whatever you want. Because once the dancing starts, you're almost obliged to be there. Because if the bride and the groom are not on the dance floor, most especially the bride, because she's very easy to spot. The groom can hide like a ninja. He blends in so well with everyone else. I had a bride recently, a bit upset on the side. I was like, hey, what's up? And she's like, oh, no one's dancing. I'm like, of course no one's fucking dancing because you're here. So you need to go there and they'll dance. If you dance, they dance. If you smile, they smile. If you have fun, everyone's going to have fun. Rain or shine, they are going to have fun. But you need to have fun. So we're going to get into that. That's going to, hands down, be the most important thing I'm going to tell you today. Well, I'll do that later on. So we did those 2.5 hours. And then closer to the 2.5 hour mark, the band know that now every wedding band has a 90-minute playlist. It's 1.5 hours. They play for a lot longer, but there's a playlist, which is called the dance playlist, or they call it whatever they want, but that is the moment when you have your first dance. So we're going to ask people, let me just make sure the timer is on. We're talking about the dance. We're going to bring, and slowly, this is not like an official announcement. No. We're just going to ask. I'm going to tell the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, I'm going to tell them, listen, start making your way closer to the dance floor. Okay. And in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we're going to have the first dance. Excuse me. I'm going to tell the band, guys, first dance. So make sure you have your break before the first dance. They know this, but the schedule, we need to tell them, we need to remind them of the schedule because maybe things change. So they would most definitely know that they have their break before the first dance. They know what they're doing, most of them. All of them. Some of them don't. Where was I? Then, bride, go pee because you're about to start dancing. When you start dancing, you're not going to stop. And everyone does their things and we all meet on the dance floor. Okay? We have our first dance. This really nice vibe surrounding the bride and the groom. Please dance for as long as possible. I know that some of you don't like dancing, and I don't care if you don't know how to dance, because no one does. This is all about just seeing how cute you are together. We don't care if you can, turn her around a couple of times and lift her up in coordination with the song. No one gives a shit about that. No one's impressed. They want to see smiles, hugs, and emotions. So do it for like 2 minutes. Do it for 3 minutes. Amazing. Do it for the duration of the song. But then organically, what happens is that after that first song, people start to get pulled in. They're already there. And 2.5 hours pass. So whoever had to eat, ate. Whoever had to drink, drank. So everyone's in a pretty much, this is the right time to do it. Now, you know that there's a dance playlist of 90 minutes. So for the next 90 minutes, your goal is to get as much of that as possible. Dancing is very important in a wedding. Something you have to realize is that kind of as a guest, when you're driving home, with your partner and you just left a wedding, you almost talk about two things, the food obviously, and like the vibe, which is like the dancing, the music, and but it's mostly the dancing. You know, you could have a playlist without a band and people are dancing, and it's a very successful wedding. And then you could have an 18-piece band who just don't manage to get the party started. So that's irrelevant. But what is relevant is dancing. And if the bride is dancing, then we'll have some good dancing. So you got to do that for 90 minutes. And then the last 3 songs are usually mellowed down a bit by the band. They do usually mellow it down. And that is everyone's cue for, toilet break, grab something else to buy, to eat, 2 more drinks. You know, this is like that moment. Because what happens then is best man, maid of honor, whoever might go up on the stage for a speech. Now, speeches, yes, a few years ago, 10 years ago, speeches used to be made and done around the cake. But no, highly not recommended. Why? Many reasons. So for starters, the sound is usually not that great because the microphone would be by the cake, but the speakers are by the stage. So it's like a bit of a orientation fuck up. The second would be that guests don't even see whoever's speaking. So it's very hard for you to stay focused on what the hell is being told and said, because you can't even see who's talking, because he's like hidden in this group around the table and you just don't see shit. And third is that everyone is still by the dance floor, which is really good. So what you're going to do is you're dancing there, mellowing it down a bit, maybe go touch up your makeup, maybe you went to the toilet, and then you just came back and like everyone's still there. And then you have the best man or whatever, they have their speeches. So you could look up at the best man. He's up on the stage. He's got a microphone. The sound is great. Everyone's laughing. Everyone's connecting with this person. You are right there at the front. It's amazing. 1, 2, 3, 4 speeches later, plan it, time it, see how long you think it's going to take approximately. And then the last person to speak is going to kindly invite everyone to make their way to the cake table. Bride and groom will look at the cake. Petals, confetti are under the cake table. You know, just lift up the tablecloth, get everything from there, sparklers, whatever it is. Make sure that you kind of have poppers, petals, confetti, or whatever it is for 3 occasions. The first is coming out of the church. The second would be the first dance, and the third would be the cake. That would be really nice. It's a bit of color, tends to work every single time. We will help coordinate certain things. Like if you've got the poppers, the very, very long ones, we will ask you maybe before first dance, we're going to see who's about to pop them, and we'll tell them, listen, could you please leave 5 seconds apart between one pop and the other? It gives me the chance to take photos twice of poppers going off. And also if you have too many poppers, we won't see anything but poppers, and we're not even getting the bride and groom visible, so kind of sucks. Anyway, we will guide you along the way. What we have come to at this point are the speeches and then the cake. So cake, we have parents on either side. You've got a nice group of people and crowd behind you. Photographers generally on one side of the cake, videographers usually on the other. And it's a really great moment. It's emotional. You cut the cake, hug, kiss, swell the glasses. So you both have the glasses both have them in your right hands, or you both have them in your left, and you would manage to do that. Take a nice group photo with family, usually with the cake. That's a really great opportunity, having your parents on either side, including yourselves. And this is the cue for either just background music or the final half hour that the band might have, because sometimes they might have just that little bit more time, and the cake and the coffee, and then it would just mellow down and the wedding would end. Or this is the best time to obviously have the after party, because the transition is seamless. People don't even, like the band played, they mellowed down, we had speeches, the band maybe stuck around so they could have the congratulations song as you cut the cake, but the DJ is already set up. Now he just has to press play, so people aren't noticing, the band stopped, the DJ stopped. No, they don't know the shit, because in between we had the speeches, we had the cake. It's a really, really great thing. And also it's a good opportunity for you to have the after party now somewhere else, because now you can move the crowd, because you brought the crowd from the dance floor to the cake. Now, if you have a little room or a shelter downstairs or something up on the roof terrace where you gotta have an after party, is that the right time to do it. Okay, just communicate with your guests, let them know. If the after party is too far away, or it's hidden, or it's soundproof, then guests need to know there's an after party, because they might see like things just quietening down, and they would just leave. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I usually do about half an hour of the after party, which is more than enough. I think every photographer or videographer could do half an hour of the after party. I think it's nice to catch that, even though it might not make it into a wedding album. No more than that it's extra, unless the bride and groom, unless you guys want more. One thing you should consider is, one thing you should consider is that everything is going to be very much repetitive at this point, so you could be just wasting your money. And one thing the photographers and videographers should know is that it doesn't matter what time you stated that you're going to leave. You don't just disappear. You should never disappear. You should always go to the bride and groom and tell them, listen, I think we're done. We've pretty much covered everything. It was a really good day. If you have no more last requests, if you have no more requests, I can pack up and leave, and I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your night. That's really cool. That is hands down the best way to leave. And she might have a request, or the groom might have a request, and then that's it, and then you can go. So then what? So I'm going to tell you, this is where everyone is different, but I'm going to tell you what I do. So something that I like to do is, because editing could take some time. You could have backlog if it is towards the end of the year, and you could have all the free time in the world if it's in the beginning of the year, and especially if you don't do many weddings, like you've got maybe no backlog at all, and you could just start editing pretty quick. However, something I like to do is I like to give the couple a teaser of the a selection of 100 images. I put on a website. You could private message me, and I could tell you what I use, and you could use it for your own services. It's really great. It's sending them a link. It kind of looks like a web page with all these images, and they could download, share, or they could at least relive the wedding day just a few days after. This makes them happy, and it buys you some time before you could give them the full package. And then the final product would consist of, in my case, it would consist of a pen drive. It's generally a SanDisk, because they're pretty reliable, and I do want that. I want that reliability, and there's 2 folders inside. There are no watermarks. You can edit your own if you want. They are obviously edited from my end, but you might want to retouch or soften your skin way more, which might not be ideal for me. It's not something I like to do. But you could print, and they're just high res. So you've got your 2 folders. One folder has all the images, and the second folder has the selected images, and those will be provided in color and in black and white, and they would have been retouched. Retouched would simply be teeth whitening, straightening the horizon, blurring the background a bit, removing emergency exits sometimes behind the guests, or wires, unwanted switches, and all that stuff. It's mostly the cleaning up, which is also what requires the most time. The couples need to understand that it's very time consuming, and as I understand, video editing is far more consuming if it's with the edits and the cuts and the transitions and the music. So please be patient. So you get that, but I also give a lovely wooden box. It's about the size of a shoe box. It's packed with prints. We got a stack about this high, and there's a pen drive in there. So it's almost like a memory box, where then you could even get your wedding invitations and some other wedding souvenirs and memories, and just chuck them in there. Might be nice to have. I think it's really nice. I gave it to a friend, and just the reaction was so amazing. I said, I'm just going to try give it to everyone now. Cool. So that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else that I can... Okay. Yeah. There's the last thing I'm going to speak to you about. I've got 5 minutes left. So, and this is the most important thing. I think from everything that I said today, this is hands down the most important thing, because to be honest, I'm going to be very frank, very straight with you. I care, but I'm going to be a bit of a savage, because I really want the message to hit. I don't really, really care that much if your white bouquet flowers turn yellow. I don't care if your veil flew off with the wind. I don't care if it rains. I don't care about so many things, because I understand what makes a really good wedding, and I've realized that it's none of those. Okay, so your expectations should not be so high, because you are most definitely going to be upset. Your plan as a bride and as a groom is to wake up the next day and look back and say, I couldn't have had more fun than I had. Like, these little stumbling blocks, these little mistakes, these little fuck ups that happened throughout our day yesterday didn't affect how much fun we had. Like, we just brushed them off. And that is exactly how you should be, because it is a numbers game. You need to understand that for every 100 things that go right, you are definitely going to have 5 fuck ups. Listen, you could have twice the budget that you really should be spending, and you are still going to have fuck ups. If you spend twice the budget that you spend, and if you get 3 wedding planners, and you still have a fuck up, you got to be pretty upset about it, because you wanted this whole fairy tale wedding. If you have 5 fuck ups for every 100 things that go right, you got to have approximately 50 fuck ups on your wedding day. Like, it's ridiculous how many things need to go right. So you got to have 50 things that are going to go wrong. The only thing is that some I'm going to notice and not you. Some you're not even going to care about because they're too small a fuck up. Some people are going to hide from you. And some might actually bother you. So some might be small things and some might be really, really big things. It doesn't matter. These things are going to happen. What you need to do on the day is you need to say, you know what? Like, fuck it, because I don't give a shit about that. I'm not going to let that ruin my day. My goal today is to have fun. So you just got to get back on the dance floor and you got to dance. You got to get back to your friends and you got to smile. And you just got to brush it off. You got to say, fuck it. It's got to be your little mantra. Fuck it. Have fun. That is hands down the most important thing for sure. Just so you know, the most fun wedding I've ever had, ever in my life was a wedding that was a complete rain weather disaster. I remember driving from her house to the church. I couldn't even use the steering wheel properly because I was so wet. And she walked into the church soaked. And it was hands down the best wedding we've ever had. I was with a videographer. And till today we speak about this wedding. It was insane how people, because they realized how happy she was no matter what. She was laughing, she was loud, and they just let go. They're like, fuck man, if these things didn't even bother her, like, we have a really good night ahead of us. And they really did, man. Like, his father ended up putting his tie on like Rambo. It was a really good wedding. So please keep that in mind. Okay, I think I spoke for too long. Text me if you need anything, or like message me or find me on Instagram. If you're a wedding photographer or videographer and you want to meet up for a coffee and you want to go over some tips and tricks, just let me know. If you're a bride and a groom and you're interested in looking for a photographer, I can help. I could not help also because I've really cut down, but I can always recommend you to really good people. Yeah, I really hope your wedding day turns out to be exactly what you want it to be. And I hope this video really helped. All right. I think I said everything. And that's it. All right. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Best of luck. Big hug. Okay.